Many people are hesitant to eat bitter melon because they fear its bitterness. But with just a few simple steps, you can make a delicious and easy-to-eat stir-fried bitter melon with eggs. Today, Ruby Home will share the recipe with you right here. First, I'll prepare a plate of fresh bitter melon to begin the preparation. When choosing bitter melon, you should select those that are fresh, have green skin, and feel firm to the touch so that the dish will retain its crispness and natural flavor during cooking. First, I'll cut off the stem at the top of the bitter melon. Next, I'll prepare a clean bowl with water. Then, I'll add 1 tablespoon of salt and stir gently until the salt is completely dissolved. Once the salt water is dissolved, I'll gently place all the bitter melon into it to soak. To ensure the bitter melon is completely submerged in the salt water, I'll place a slightly heavier plate on top. This will prevent the bitter melon from floating to the surface, ensuring that the entire surface is evenly soaked in the salt water. I'll let the bitter melon soak for about 5 to 7 minutes. During this time, you can prepare other ingredients or clean up the kitchen area to save time when you start cooking. After the zucchini has been soaked for the required time, take each one out and begin washing it under clean running water. While washing, gently rotate each zucchini with your hands and lightly scrub the surface to remove any dirt clinging to the crevices of the skin. You should wash each zucchini thoroughly to ensure it is completely clean before cutting and cooking. After washing under running water, transfer the zucchini to another basin of clean water to wash it again. This step helps remove any remaining salt water on the surface and makes the zucchini even cleaner before moving on to the next preparation stage. By dedicating a few extra minutes to this thorough cleaning step, you will have more peace of mind when cooking, and the finished dish will be more fragrant and appealing. After washing the bitter gourds, we'll move on to the preparation steps for cooking. First, place each bitter gourd on a cutting board. Then use a knife to cut off the top and bottom ends. Next, use a knife to cut each bitter gourd in half lengthwise, creating 2 equal halves. After cutting them in half, you'll see the pulp and seeds in the middle. Now, take a small spoon and gently insert it into the middle of the gourd to scrape out all the pulp inside. You should scrape slowly, little by little, moving the spoon along the length of the gourd to remove all the pulp and seeds. There's no need to use too much force. Just a gentle motion will easily separate the pulp without crushing the outer flesh. We will repeat this process until all 4 halves of the bitter gourd are completely cleaned. After scraping, the inside of the bitter gourd will be more open. Just be patient at this step, and the bitter gourd will be neatly prepared, making the finished dish more visually appealing and easier to enjoy. After preparing the bitter gourd, we'll now begin a very interesting step in this dish. First, gently arrange each half of the bitter gourd on the steaming tray, placing the hollowed-out inner part facing upwards to create natural, small trays. Remember to arrange the pieces so they stand upright. This will prevent the eggs from spilling out when added. Next, crack the eggs directly into the center of each half of the bitter gourd. However, at this step, we only keep the egg whites inside the bitter gourd. The yolks will be separated and placed in a separate bowl. After separating all the eggs, gently whisk the yolks with chopsticks until they are evenly mixed and have a beautiful yellow color. You don't need to whisk for too long, just stir well to incorporate the yolks. Next, I will slowly pour the beaten egg yolks over the egg whites already in each half of the bitter gourd. I will do this repeatedly until all of them are covered with a layer of golden egg yolk. At this point, the dish looks very appealing with the combination of the green of the bitter gourd and the yellow of the eggs. Once the preparation is complete, I will begin steaming. First, I add enough water to a pot and heat it over high heat. Once the water boils and steam rises evenly, I gently place the steaming tray into the pot, then close the lid tightly. Now, we just need to steam the dish until cooked. After steaming for about 10 minutes, I'll open the lid to check. At this point, the egg is completely cooked. The surface is solidified with a beautiful golden color, and the bitter melon is also perfectly cooked. soft but still retaining its shape, not mushy. I'll use gloves or tongs to gently remove the steaming tray from the pot. Because the tray and the food are still very hot, be careful to avoid burns while removing them. Next, I place each steamed bitter melon piece on a cutting board. After letting it cool for about 1 to 2 minutes, I use a knife to cut it into small, bite-sized pieces. I'll slice each half of the bitter melon into even slices, so that when arranged on a plate, the dish looks appealing and is also more convenient to eat. You can adjust the size of the slices according to your family's preference, but I usually cut them to a moderate size so that each slice contains enough bitter melon and egg inside. This way, when served, the dish will look more appealing and the flavors will be more harmonious. After slicing, I gently arrange each piece on the plate. With just a little neat arrangement, the dish becomes much more visually appealing. The green of the bitter melon blends with the yellow of the egg to create a very harmonious overall effect. Just looking at it makes you want to enjoy it immediately. To make the steamed bitter melon with egg even more flavorful and appealing, we'll now prepare a dipping sauce. With just a few common kitchen ingredients, we can make a very fragrant dipping sauce that perfectly complements this dish. First, place a pan on the stove and wait for it to heat up. Once the pan reaches the appropriate temperature, add a moderate amount of cooking oil. Wait for the oil to heat up. Then add the minced garlic, chili, and green onions to the pan. At this point, use chopsticks or a spatula to stir evenly so that the ingredients cook slowly. After a short while, the garlic begins to release its aroma, the green onions soften, and the mixture turns a beautiful golden color. The aroma emanating from the pan at this point will make the dipping sauce much more appealing. Next, add a little oyster sauce and continue stirring gently. Wait a few seconds for the oyster sauce to simmer and blend with the garlic, chili, and green onions. Next, I added some soy sauce and chili powder to enhance the flavor and color of the dipping sauce. Now, I stirred well to combine all the ingredients. After a short while, the dipping sauce thickened slightly, had a beautiful golden brown color, and emitted an incredibly appealing aroma. Finally, I turned off the heat and carefully poured the entire sauce into a small bowl. To enhance the aroma and make the dipping sauce more visually appealing, I sprinkled some white sesame seeds on top. And that's it, the dipping sauce is complete. So, our steamed bitter melon with eggs is now complete. The finished dish has a beautiful color. The bitter melon is perfectly cooked and tender, combined with rich and flavorful eggs, and dipped in a savory sauce, making it even more appealing. This is a fairly simple dish to make, with easy-to-find ingredients and not too much preparation time. If your family enjoys light yet flavorful dishes, try making it using the recipe Ruby Home just shared. Hopefully, today's video will give you another great suggestion to enrich your family's daily menu. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to the Ruby Home channel to follow more helpful tips and delicious recipes in future videos. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you in the next Ruby Home video.